Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Today's presentation I would like to do on the book The FBI War on Tupac Shakur, the state repression of black leaders from the civil rights era to the 1990s, by John L. Potash. I'm a big Tupac fan, and throughout my high school and college days, I was always inspired by his messages of social justice, because you have to keep in mind each one of his tracks and songs always had a message where you could learn something from. And obviously he was deemed a threat because the system as a whole wants those artists that are peddling drugs and crime and calling everyone pimps and hoes and bitches and all of that in between. So Tupac was not following that agenda, which made him a threat. And as I was researching it, I came across Mr. Potash's work, and I was really impressed by this. And I wanted to do a presentation. I wanted to read the book and present its teachings to the world. So I reserve my rights as a consumer of this book to be able to share its teachings with my gnosis and presentation. And also as a disclaimer, this is for education, nonprofit, information, and entertainment purposes only of a book that's publicly published. So I hope you benefit from this, and I thank you very much. Now you will have many people in the conservative talk show realm and other people that are in the truth and conscious community, or they have their podcast or are public speakers of some kind, right? They would say that Tupac got a nose job or is now a gay man in Cuba, right? That's another form of defamation that intelligence agencies use against people that they do not like or deem as a threat, right? You destroy their character and defame them and dox them. And you got to keep in mind, most of these people in the conservative talk realm, they might be good speakers, or they'll lure you in with their personality and speaking skills. But most of these people are tied in with American intelligence or British intelligence. So that's exactly what it is if you hear anyone talk down on Tupac in these realms of conservative media or any other media. Now, as we go into the book, it discusses how U.S. intelligence agencies targeted black leaders, including Tupac Shakur and the Shakur family, with violence and propaganda to maintain conservative control over the media. Mainstream media organizations are slowly accepting the information which is being revealed about all of this content, covering topics like the FBI's targeting of Tupac and Malcolm X. And basically it shows how all of these leaders, such as like the Black Panthers, for example, and Tupac, Malcolm X, they were all targeted. Now, media organizations and courts have refused to release key information related to the FBI's involvement in Tupac's murder, highlighting ongoing issues of police violence and racism. U.S. intelligence agencies have historically targeted leftist black leaders like Tupac Shakur and used tactics such as propaganda and violence. This targeting dates back to the socialist W.E.B. Du Bois and continues with other activists like Marcus Garvey and A. Philip Randolph. The FBI orchestrated the murder of Tupac and covered up their involvement, using tactics like divide and conquer. The agency has a history of opposing leftists working for social change and has suppressed information through mainstream media control. This oppression of black leaders reflects a broader pattern of government targeting and a suppression of marginalized groups. The FBI conducted surveillance on Malcolm X in the 1950s, growing concerned about his influence as a national spokesperson for the Nation of Islam. Africa's struggle against imperialism and Malcolm X's criticism of racism and capitalism threatened U.S. corporations. Malcolm X leadership and revolutionary connections led to intelligence reports being filed on him in the 1960s. His father's activism, mysterious death, and impact on Malcolm's life are all significant aspects of his story. Malcolm X split with the NOI due to political disagreements, forming the OAAU in 1964, with support from African leaders. U.S. intelligence agencies infiltrated and attempted to assassinate Malcolm, including poisoning him in Egypt. FBI and police involvement in Malcolm X's assassination in 1965 was supported by documents and admissions. The media covered up certain details, such as the death of Malcolm X's ally, Leon 4X Amir, and of course the FBI and CIA were implicated in wanting Malcolm gone due to his impact on U.S.-African relations and multinational deals. This book by Mr. Potash, see what he's doing here. He's building, in the teaching that I've gathered, he's building a narrative in terms of what happened to all black leaders, which also includes Tupac. So the book discusses various sources and investigations related to the assassination of Malcolm X in 1965, including involvement from the FBI, CIA, and NYPD. And it mentions the role of undercover agents and intelligence agencies in framing Malcolm X and the Black Panthers. And Mr. Potash highlights conflicting reports about the police presence at the crime scene and the actions of individuals like Joan Roberts and Betty Shabazz. And the book also references censorship control by U.S. intelligence agency over media organizations, which is, I believe, Project Mockingbird, that they still influence the media, right? They'll always have like a retired intelligence head as a spokesperson in each news organization. The FBI has close relationships with the media that have allowed them to influence and even alter news stories, as detailed in Lisa Pease's The Media and the Assassination. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination was orchestrated by U.S. intelligence agencies to stop his civil rights work and anti-Vietnam War organizing, as revealed by attorney William Pepper's investigation. Government intelligence agencies, police, and the mafia worked together to carry out the assassination, with evidence pointing to multiple snipers stationed in various positions in Memphis. Despite government claims, CIA involvement and military intelligence orders indicate a conspiracy to kill Martin Luther King. The King family's lawsuit against Jowers for MLK's assassination in 1999 brought over 70 witnesses under oath, supporting a government-planned assassination theory. Evidence included declassified papers and witness testimonies. Pepper tried to release information through various means, including defending James Earl Ray in a televised trial. Jowers admitted his involvement after the trial, implicating mafia bosses, police officials, and intelligence agents. Other witnesses also supported Jowers' account, including his girlfriend and associates. Testimonies revealed the involvement of Memphis police chiefs, U.S. intelligence, and mafia in the assassination operation. Former intelligence officers and an undercover agent also testified, along with a police informant seeming to admit his role. Other testimonies included a New York Times reporter, cab drivers, and judges confirming the wrong murder weapon was pursued. Former CIA operative Jack Terrell disclosed his friend's involvement as a backup sniper in the assassination. Claiborne Carson, a Stanford history professor, read interviews of Army Special Forces Group snipers linked to Martin Luther King's assassination, revealing their covert roles. Merrill McCullough was tasked to confirm MLK's death and signal to agents. Lloyd Jowers was found guilty in a 1999 trial with Pepper's investigation, implicating U.S. government agencies in the conspiracy. Coretta Scott King and former U.S. Attorney General Ramsey Clark supported Pepper's findings on media censorship. The trial's verdict was heavily censored by American media outlets like the New York Times. The complete trial transcript can be found on the King Center's website. U.S. intelligence agencies targeted black activist groups, such as the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, for their radical views and actions. The Panthers, founded in 1966 by Bobby Seale and Huey Newton, aimed to defend black communities from police brutality and provide free services, including the WIC program for mothers and children, which today the U.S. government took that from them without giving the Black Panthers any credit. And please check out the presentation that I did on Huey P. Newton in my past videos, and I'll put it in the description below also. Their 10-point program included aims such as self-determination, education, and an end to police violence. The media and politicians often covered up details about the FBI's counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, that targeted these groups. And despite all this, the Black Panthers gained national attention and support. So, what Mr. Potash is teaching us in this book, and what I've learned is it's all building up. Like Tupac Shakur, of course, and also how the state repressed black leaders in the civil rights era all the way to the 1990s for those that were trying to do good for their community. So this white supremacy system of control doesn't want that. Newton and Seal faced specious arrests and attacks, culminating in a shooting involving the Panthers. Newton was wounded, arrested, and charged with murder, but after a lengthy legal battle, all charges were dismissed. The Free Huey movement gained international support, highlighting its systematic police repression and targeted harassment by U.S. intelligence against the Black Panthers, as outlined in FBI documents. Black Panther leaders suspected FBI involvement in King's assassination and that Newton was on a hit list. U.S. intelligence escalated attacks as Panthers gained success, aiming to disrupt and dismantle the organization. The Peace and Freedom Party made Eldridge Cleaver their U.S. presidential candidate and Tom Hayden their vice president in 1968. Police raids on Panther leaders, including Cleaver, escalated after Martin Luther King's assassination, leading to riots in various cities. Police targeted Panther chapters across the country, particularly in New York. Undercover agents and police brutality contributed to the downfall of various Panther leaders, including Lumumba Shakur and Sekou Odinga. Despite arrests and false charges, the Panthers continue to fight for their cause. Black Panther Party members faced targeted police brutality in the late 1960s, leading to significant casualties. LAPD's counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, orchestrated the assassination of key Panther members, including Bunchy Carter and John Huggins, in Los Angeles. FBI informants within the United Slaves Organization were used to carry out these killings and create further havoc within the Black liberation movement. And even now, right, they identify people that are trying to fight for change and good cause as Black identity extremists. So this stuff is still going on today. Geronimo Pratt, who later led the LA Panthers, recounted the events surrounding the murders, revealing the insidious tactics employed by law enforcement agencies to destabilize the Panthers. The true nature of the United Slaves and its ties to the FBI remain a subject of debate within the historical narrative of this turbulent era, even in the modern day. The book discusses the murders of Black Panther leaders Carter's and Huggins, with allegations pointing towards U.S. intelligence orchestrating the killings. Various witnesses, including FBI whistleblower M. Wes Swearingen, suggesting that FBI informants were involved in the murders. The narrative also highlights conflicts within the Panther leadership and accusations of FBI infiltration in both LA and New York chapters, leading to mass arrests and trials. The FBI's alleged attempts to assassinate the Panther leaders and the use of undercover agents in both chapters, it suggests a coordinated effort to dismantle the Black Panther Party. The FBI coordinated attacks on the Black Panther leaders to prevent them from politicizing gangs and expanding their influence. Fred Hampton's urge and effort to merge Chicago's Blackstone Rangers into the Panthers posed a real threat to the FBI's agenda. Undercover FBI agent William O'Neill sabotaged the merger, causing armed clashes and ending negotiations with other radical groups. The FBI used similar tactics against Tupac Shakur in later years. Lumumba Shakur and Sekou Odinga's leadership in New York gangs also made them targets. FBI's fear of the Panthers' potential to unite and radicalize gangs drove their efforts to dismantle the organization. Hampton's rise to national prominence alarmed the FBI, leading to a violent raid on Panther premises in December 1969. The FBI's collaboration with police in these attacks aimed to suppress the Panthers' revolutionary activities and prevent their growth. and the FBI orchestrated raids on the Panthers, including the assassination of Fred Hampton and other Panthers, with high-ranking FBI officials involved in the cover-up. The FBI later targeted Geronimo Pratt, Judy Barry, Huey Newton, and also Tupac. The FBI manipulated events and put the Panthers against each other and used undercover agents like George Sams to incite violence within the Panthers. Police shootings and arrests of Panthers were part of a larger FBI conspiracy, with survivors eventually awarded $2 million in damages. Huey Newton claimed that FBI agent George Sams was used to provoke violent raids on Black Panther offices across the country. Sams' actions led to the imprisonment and trial of several Panther leaders, but the charges were eventually dismissed. The FBI's tactics of causing internal conflicts within the Panthers also extended to setting up the East Coast versus West Coast feud in the rap game. The FBI used undercover agents to manipulate and incite violence within the party, resulting in the deaths of key members. This strategy ultimately helped the FBI neutralize Black Panther leadership nationwide through arrest, imprisonment, and murder. The FBI's influence even extended to pitting Newton against the other Panther leaders, leading to internal strife and division within the organization. The book describes the intense trial of Black Panther member Hilliard, who received a prison sentence despite not having a gun. The Black Panthers, influenced by figures like Frantz Fanon and Malcolm X, faced brutal repression from the FBI. Groups like the Weather Underground and AIM, American Indian Movement, also experienced similar repression. So again, all of these alphabet gangs are only there to uphold the white supremacy system. So any non-white group or organization that's trying to rise or help their people, it's all in front of you. Activists disillusioned with peaceful protest turned to violent tactics like bombing to protest the Vietnam War and racist government actions. The Weather Underground carried out numerous bombings in the 70s, but always evacuated people to avoid harm. The Panthers and other revolutionary groups received support from celebrities and activists. The New York Panther 21 trial, led by Afeni Shakur, faced biased prosecution and lengthy imprisonment. Eugene Roberts, an undercover agent, infiltrated the Panthers and was linked to the assassination of Malcolm X. Afeni's legal skills and courtroom performance helped the Panthers in their trial. The judge denied Afeni's objections to DA lies and illegal tactics during the New York 21 trial, sparking laughter in the courtroom. Bombs set off at judge's home by Weather Underground was also a repercussion of this. Panther 21 acquitted, with credit to Afeni's trial work, was also a part of this scenario. Labumba Shakur and others remained incarcerated. And of course, the FBI targeted American Indian Movement, AIM, and radical groups, resorting to violent tactics. SDS, Weather Underground, and other movements engaged in bombings to fight racism and the Vietnam War. Various celebrities and activists supported these groups, and various documents and studies detail the FBI's covert actions against activists. And the jurors in this trial credit Afeni's work in getting Panther 21 acquitted. The book describes a phone call from Ada Phillips to Mr. Tabor, where insults exchanged and threats are made. Now, this is talking about the Assistant District Attorney Phillips to Mr. Tabor, where insults exchanged and threats are made in this conversation. Phillips believes the conversation may sway the trial in his favor, but the Panthers remain unfazed. The shift in public perception of black revolutionaries due to the exposure of FBI tactics aids the embattled Panthers, and Afeni Shakur continues her activism after giving birth to Tupac. Geronimo Pratt faces a frame-up orchestrated by the FBI, eventually leading to his release. Afeni helps in his legal defense. The CIA and FBI collaborated in attacks against Pratt, eventually leading to his exoneration and a multi-million-dollar settlement. Afeni and Matulu Shakur worked together to file a groundbreaking lawsuit against the New York police regarding intelligence activities, ultimately leading to significant restrictions By 1973, Afeni moves in with Matulu, co-founder of the Republic of New Africa, aligned with the Panthers and facing similar police repression. So now you know with the Tupac song Dear Mama why he loved his mother so much, because look who she was. She was the foundation of who he became, and all of his songs have a meaning behind him, including they got money for wars, right, but not for the poor. And I stress that anyone talking down on Tupac, especially in the conservative media, they're just extensions of U.S. and British intelligence trying to defame and slander his character. During the 1970s and 1980s, Afeni Shakur and Matula Shakur were actively involved in militant self-defense groups, such as the Black Liberation Army, working to protect activists from police assault. Afeni assisted Matulu in legal activities to oppose the counterintelligence program COINTELPRO. Matulu, known for his activism and acupuncture work, faced FBI surveillance and was targeted as a terrorist. The FBI accused Matulu of founding the Revolutionary Armed Task Force, which supported Lincoln Detox, and assisted Assata Shakur in gaining exile in Cuba. Despite evidence proving her innocence, Assata was convicted of killing a police officer. Afeni worked on lawsuits to hold police accountable for violating activist rights, leading to significant restrictions on police intelligence activities in New York. Matulu's work with Lincoln Detox and national acupuncture groups aimed to combat drug addiction and chemical warfare. The FBI labeling of activists as terrorists justified unconstitutional surveillance and assault on radical leftists. And they're still doing that today, whether they did that with my Muslim community or whether they're doing that with Black people of America as Black identity extremists. Police task force targeted Matulu and other activists, resembling the erosion of rights post 9/11. The book contains, by Mr. Potash, numerous references to historical events and legal proceedings related to the Shakur family's activism and FBI surveillance, highlighting the ongoing struggle for justice and political change. Mr. Potash in this book discusses the FBI's targeting of Afeni Shakur and her family, including Tupac, Afeni's involvement in activism, and her relationship with drug dealer Legs McNeil are also referenced. The FBI's continued harassment of Afeni even after her son became famous is also stressed, as her son also was about to make a difference. Tupac's early exposure to political activism and his desire to be a revolutionary were also foundations which resulted in his targeting. The CIA involvement in targeting Black activists is also there, along with Matula Shakur's hiding from the FBI in 1981. In the 70s, an undercover female agent infiltrated anti-war groups, highlighting common intelligence strategies. Drug lord Nicky Barnes and his connection Legs operated with CIA support, leading to Barnes' moniker Mr. Untouchable. Barnes' associate Afeni Shakur faced a mysterious death after their relationship ended, linked to government activities. U.S. intelligence also supported the drug trafficker Freeway Rick Ross. The CIA's manipulation tactics went beyond drug trafficking, infiltrating civil rights movements through informants like Jay Kennedy and Elaine Brown. Brown's dubious actions led to murders within the Black Panthers, shedding light on her covert operations. Despite defending her intentions, Brown's conflicting narratives reveal a complex web of deception and betrayal within activist circles. Michael Swearingen's book, The FBI Secrets and Agents Expose, provides insight into the life of Afeni, the mother of Tupac Shakur, including her frequent relocations and collaborations with various influential figures. Other sources, such as Scott's The Killing of Tupac Shakur and Volk's letter in the New York Review of Books, shed light on Afeni's relationship with individuals like Chomsky and Ginsburg. And the book also explores the involvement of individuals like Matula Shakur and Nicky Barnes in criminal activities and their connections to government agencies like the CIA. Bobby Seale's statements at the Black Panther Film Festival in 1999 and Huey Newton's claims regarding the drug dealings are also relative parts of this complex web that we're discussing. Kathleen Cleaver's interviews and evidence provided by ex-Panther George Edwards offers insights into the possible espionage activities of individuals like Elaine Brown and connections to the murders of Black Panther leaders. Citation of CIA documents and personal interviews with former Panthers shed light on the complex relationships and betrayals within the Black Panther Party during the 1970s and 1980s. Huey Newton's post-prison apartment was falsely portrayed as luxurious through an FBI smear campaign, detailed in various FBI documents. Tupac's activist upbringing with New African Panthers in Baltimore and California led to his leadership role in NAPO. Newton, Geronimo Pratt, and Tupac faced government persecution for their revolutionary activism, with Newton eventually opening a Panther-inspired school after prison release. Huey Newton worked for Geronimo Pratt's release from prison but was later shot and killed under suspicious circumstances. We know why. Newton's murder, exactly a year after refusing prison release for Pratt, was likely orchestrated by U.S. intelligence, as multiple aspects of the killing suggest foul play. The FBI and police narrative of Newton's death had discrepancies, and witnesses described the murder as a setup. The assassination's timing, similar to other Black leaders' killings, indicates a possible intelligence involvement to intimidate political activists. The book discusses the suspicious circumstances surrounding the murder of Huey Newton and the FBI agent Richard W. Held's involvement in covering it up. The government settled a lawsuit with environmental activist Judy Bari after a bombing attack believed to be orchestrated by the FBI. Tupac Shakur also faced multiple armed attacks connected to Held. This reveals a pattern of FBI involvement in targeting activists. The book discusses the FBI's COINTELPRO targeting of activist figures such as Judy Bari and Tupac Shakur, as well as Fred Hampton Jr. The tactics used against them including defamation, entrapment, and misinformation. U.S. intelligence also targeted political musicians, developing strategies to disrupt their careers. The link between U.S. intelligence actions and the deaths of individuals such as Fred Hampton Sr. and an attorney defending Hampton Jr. is also connected. Tupac's rise as a public figure and critic in 1992 led to increasing targeting by U.S. intelligence agencies due to his activism and influence. And all of his stuff was about good things, right? They got money for the wars, but not for the poor. And those in the conservative talk show circles or podcasts or pundits that are defaming Tupac in any way are part of the same defamation group of these intel agencies from American and British intelligence. They're interconnected more than you realize. Despite evidence of government-orchestrated attacks, Tupac's widespread fame made him more of a challenging target for U.S. intelligence. It is hypocritical to prioritize white victims over African-American victims. Tupac Shakur was the target of a covert attack at the Marin Fest in August 1992, possibly orchestrated by U.S. intelligence. Eyewitness accounts and documentary evidence suggest police complicity in the attack on Tupac, with the assailants being shielded by false rumors spread to justify the violence. The FBI's COINTELPRO tactics included media manipulation were likely used to set up Tupac for the attack. Despite evidence clearing Tupac and his associates, they were arrested while the true attackers were let go, indicating a potential FBI cover-up. The assassination attempt on Tupac, similar to those on other civil rights figures, suggests a larger conspiracy involving U.S. intelligence and law enforcement. U.S. intelligence was against Tupac Shakur due to his involvement in politicizing the Bloods and the Crips, leading to a peace truce that influenced various gang chapters. Tupac and Mutulu Shakur developed the Thug Life movement to change gang member behavior, while facing criticism for Tupac's negative image in mainstream society. Despite the detractors, Tupac's lyrics were defended by black feminists and his impact on gang leaders like Sanyika Shakur. The code of thug life created by Tupac and Mutulu aimed at promoting positive values among gang members, including the community and impacting the community. Sanyika Shakur's political conversion in the late 80s led to a gang peace summits and a conversions to Panther-inspired radicalism, sparking concern from U.S. intelligence. Bloods and Crips gang leaders even traveled to England to speak to socialist black groups. The LAPD and U.S. intelligence used various tactics to suppress gang activism, including mass arrest and covert operations. Mutulu Shakur's influence over young black men led to his transfer to a maximum security prison in Colorado, reflecting a broader effort to control gang activism. Tupac Shakur faced increasing scrutiny from U.S. intelligence and Republican politicians, leading to harassment and legal tactics against him. The FBI accumulated a large file on Tupac, but legal changes prevented the release of detailed documents. Tupac's critiques of George Bush Sr. and Dan Quayle in his music led to denunciations and harassment tactics, including arrests on various charges. Politicians called for censorship of Tupac's music, and civil lawsuits were filed against him. These tactics were part of a larger strategy to limit Tupac's influence and career through legal means and public attacks. Various legal incidents involving Tupac Shakur are detailed in this book, including a case of assault, a shooting incident leading to a paralysis at a concert, and a lawsuit from a limo driver. Tupac's interactions with the Nation of Islam and his threats against them are also recounted. The book mentions ongoing harassment and legal troubles faced by Tupac, including his stint in jail for a 15-day sentence related to a courtroom scuffle. And additionally, it references to Tupac's wealth, influence, and connections to intelligence attacks are also made. In 1993, Tupac Shakur faced a clear police attempt on his life in Atlanta, Georgia. Off-duty cops shot at him after a concert, but he fought back and was later acquitted. In New York, a setup by a friend, quote-unquote, Jacques Agnant, led to a serious charge against Tupac, showcasing possible police involvement in his shooting incidents. Ayanna Jackson made forced sodomy charges against Tupac and others, but later said only watched. Tupac's attorney suspected a police setup due to connections between Haitian promoter Jacques Agnant and police. Police used unethical tactics to keep Tupac in jail after bail, leading to his acquittal on major charges but conviction on dubious sexual abuse charges. The district attorney showed bias towards Agnant and made efforts to keep Tupac in jail. Ayanna Jackson's actions, including hiring a high-profile lawyer immediately after the incident, raises questions about her motivations. Warren believed judicial bias affected Tupac's trial, leading to his conviction on lesser charges and continued legal battles. So that's how they try to get you. That's how they try to get you when they want to get you. Jackson filed a civil lawsuit against Tupac and lied about knowing her lawyer Kaplan during the trial. U.S. intelligence was involved in the armed attacks on Tupac, including one in November 1994 in New York City. Tupac survived a military-style execution in a recording studio lobby where he was shot multiple times. Police involvement, security footage, and media censorship created suspicions around the incident. Tupac's mother and lawyer believed police set up the shooting, and Tupac implicated Agnant in lyrics as working with the FBI. Despite injuries, Tupac survived, and the shooting was linked to a larger conspiracy against him. The book also discusses the legal case of New York versus Tupac Shakur regarding sexual abuse allegations, as well as the efforts by the district attorney to keep Tupac from gaining bail. The book mentions the presence of police during the shooting incident in Times Square and the influence of U.S. intelligence and conservative corporations on popular music. Various historical events, including the role of organized crime in the music industry and the impact of Alan Freed on rock music, are also interconnected. The FBI's surveillance of musicians and censorship of political songs are discussed, along with the controversy surrounding Freed's career and the payola scandals in the music industry. So it's just like with the whole current Diddy situation. I mean, people must be naive to not think that the FBI wasn't aware of what was going on. And even Kanye West described these people as feds, or the ones that made deals with them. So they were informants, and that's just how the game goes. During Freed's career, the mafia influenced music ownership, record distribution, and music tours through its powers in the Teamsters Union. Time Warner, a media conglomerate, censored Tupac's music and collaborated with the CIA, following a history of supporting conservative Republicans. C.D. Jackson, a Time Life executive, had ties to U.S. intelligence, shaping cultural manipulation and propaganda. Time Warner controlled rap music sales and owned numerous media outlets, censoring political aspects of Tupac's life. Time Warner's acquisition of Death Row Records had links to both U.S. intelligence and the mafia. The book discusses U.S. intelligence influence on the severe sentencing and prison manipulation of Tupac Shakur. This influence, including high bail amounts and prison transfers, was reminiscent of tactics used on Black Panthers and activists. These tactics, known as penal coercion, involved a psychological manipulation and torture techniques. Reports indicated that prison officials used harsh methods on Tupac, such as humiliating rectal searches, to break him down and manipulate him while in prison. Tupac Shakur endured painful anal probes during his time in solitary confinement, which were part of CIA torture techniques to weaken prisoners' mental and physical abilities to resist. The FBI likely manipulated Tupac through penal coercion techniques to believe that Biggie Smalls was involved in his shooting, sparking an East Coast versus West Coast rap war. This tactic mirrored historical intelligence operations to create conflicts within activist groups and cover up their actions. The media played a role in exaggerating the feud between Tupac and Biggie, further fueling the rivalry in the rap world. The book discusses the influence of U.S. intelligence on Tupac Shakur's life, particularly during his time in prison and his signing with Death Row Records. The book references FBI tactics, fake letters, and undercover agents used to create conflict between East and West Coast Panther groups. And it also suggests that Death Row Records may have been a front for intelligence operations, given its connections to CIA collaborating cocaine traffickers. The role of Vice President George Bush in overseeing CIA operations, including drug trafficking to fund Contra rebels in Nicaragua, is also interconnected in this web. And the book highlights the complex web of government involvement in Tupac's life and career, raising questions about the true motivations behind his actions and decisions. Suge Knight and Dave Kenner manipulated Death Row Records for U.S. intelligence operations, using police officers as covert agents. Suge Knight avoided jail time despite multiple guilty pleas, indicating a potential collaboration with law enforcement. Tupac Shakur's involvement with Death Row led to substance abuse and isolation, with Knight using coercive tactics on him. The CIA's historical precedent of using infiltrators, such as in the Fred Hampton case, suggests a similar tactic may have been used on Tupac. This complex web of manipulation highlights the intersection of entertainment, law enforcement, and intelligence agencies in shaping the music industry. The book discusses various instances of government involvement in the music industry, particularly the manipulation of rap artists and their messages by figures such as Suge Knight. Knight's actions, including instigating violence and orchestrating conflicts between rappers, reflect a pattern of behavior reminiscent of FBI COINTELPRO tactics used to create divisions within activist groups. Tupac's involvement with Death Row Records and his shift in lyrics to attack other rappers under Knight's influence exemplify the impact of such manipulative tactics. Tupac believed that Biggie and Combs, Diddy, orchestrated his shooting in line with U.S. intelligence agenda, using Death Row Records for criminal activities and disrupting gang peace truces. Police officers associated with Death Row were involved in drug trafficking and money laundering. Suge Knight encouraged violence and chaos between Death Row and Bad Boy Records, even turning Tupac against Dr. Dre. The police targeted gang peace leaders and interfered with peace truce events, ultimately working to end the gang peace truce because they don't want that. Knight hired Bloods and Crips gang members to work at death row, leading to violent conflicts and even murders, with police officers likely involved. Operation Hammer targeted the gangs involved in peace summits, with some police officers within death row working against gang peace truces. This aligns with a larger goal of U.S. intelligence to disrupt the gang peace truce. Death Row Records collaborated with police to achieve these goals, leading to violence and criminal activities that went unchecked by authorities. Tupac Shakur defies Death Row Records and plans to leave while returning to radical leftist policies and politics through his music and activism, even as tensions rise within Death Row leading up to his death in a Las Vegas shooting after attending a Mike Tyson fight. The Death Row entourage drove Tupac and Knight to a post-match benefit concert where Tupac was murdered in a U.S. intelligence planned procession. Knight convinced Tupac to drive with him instead of in a Hummer, and security for the drive was unusual. FBI agents were allegedly present in the entourage, and reports claimed that no guards fired at the assailants who shot Tupac. The Cadillac responsible for the shooting was never caught. The depiction of Suge Knight's involvement in Tupac Shakur's murder is contentious. Knight was hit by a bullet or bullet fragment, with conflicting reports from different sources. Police actions following the shootings were criticized for aiding the murderer's escape. Moreover, a possible police operation against Tupac was uncovered, suggesting U.S. intelligence involvement due to Tupac's increasing influence and political aspirations. Tupac's plan to collaborate with gang members raised red flags for U.S. intelligence. Knight's actions and police mishandling of the investigation suggest a deeper conspiracy in Tupac's murder. Hackey, who worked for Death Row, revealed he was an FBI informant and tried to protect Tupac by encouraging him to move to Atlanta. The FBI set Hackey up with gun possession charges. Death Row bodyguards, including Michael Moore, were instructed not to carry guns the night Tupac was shot. Suge Knight communicated with the FBI and police in the days after the shooting. The Bloods and the Crips gang war reignited after Tupac's shooting, leading to more violence. Tupac passed away on September 13th, and activists spread a message of peace. Knight claimed to have been hit in the head during the shooting, but evidently suggests otherwise, and the evidence was saying that Suge Knight was part of the cover-up. Tupac's family and friends gathered at the hospital during his final days. 20 people died in gang violence following Tupac's shooting, but peace was eventually restored after activists disputed the Crips' involvement. Tupac's murder was covered up by U.S. intelligence and continued for years, using threat timing tactics to prevent witnesses from coming forward. Yafiu Fula, a key witness, was murdered in a similar tactic used on Tupac's close associates. The death of Fula and others connected to Tupac suggests a larger conspiracy and cover-up around his murder, with evidence pointing to Orlando Anderson being involved. U.S. intelligence targeted Tupac due to his political potential, leading to his demise and the ongoing mystery surrounding his death. The book discusses the possible involvement of Orlando Anderson and corrupt Los Angeles police officers in the murders of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. Anderson was believed to have been paid by an unknown source, had acquired expensive items shortly after Tupac's murder, and lacked regular gang trappings, despite having illicit funds. Afeni Shakur filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Anderson, suspecting government links. Anderson was eventually murdered in a shootout with suspicions that it was a cover-up orchestrated by Death Row Security Director Reggie Wright. Police Detective Russell Poole, with the help of Officer Ken Knox, gathered evidence of LAPD police officers working with Death Row in the murders. Poole's findings were dismissed by LAPD superiors, leading to his resignation. Witnesses identified a close friend of Death Row employed cop David Mack as Biggie's killer, and the involvement of Suge Knight and Death Row associates in obtaining the murder weapon. The LAPD refused forensic tests on Mac's car despite evidence linking it to the murder. Anderson was also seen at Biggie's murder scene, further supporting the connections between death row and the murders of Tupac and Biggie. Highland, a death row accountant, provided details of Suge Knight's involvement in the murder. The evidence suggests a complex web of corruption and cover-up involving government links and the police complicity in the high-profile homicides. And if you've seen the movie Shooter, right, I believe it's with Mark Wahlberg, it shows you how when they're trying to set people up or try to get people, the police and intel agents or informants are always interconnected with each other. So that's why if you try to report an informant who's defaming others or doxing others, the police will take no action against it. So there you have that. The book discusses the investigation into the murders of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, revealing the presence of FBI and ATF agents at the crime scenes. Detective Russell Poole found evidence linking an FBI agent to Biggie's murder, and former FBI informant Kevin Hackey claimed an FBI agent followed Tupac's car when he was killed. The book also mentions the history of the ATF targeting left-wing activists and collaborating with the FBI. Nick Broomfield's documentary, Biggie and Tupac, explores the involvement of law enforcement in the murders, with Biggie's bodyguards accusing Suge Knight and Death Row of orchestrating the killings. The media largely ignored these claims, focusing on other theories about the murders. Many LAPD officers connected to Death Row Records were cited by Poole, Ken Knox, and Reggie Wright. Chuck Phillips' widely reprinted Los Angeles Times article suggested that Biggie Smalls paid the Crips to kill Tupac. However, critics like Robert Sam Anson and Vibe writers questioned Phillips' credibility. Author Randall Sullivan faced opposition for exposing corruption involving death row cops. Whistleblower Mark Hayland revealed LAPD officers' involvement in drug trafficking, including in Biggie's murder. Poole's findings led to the Rampart scandal investigation, which aimed to cover up death row cops' illegal activities and diverted attention from Tupac and Biggie's murders. Poole filed a lawsuit against the LAPD to bring this information to light. Voletta Wallace's lawsuit against the LAPD for Biggie's murder led to a mistrial, but later resulted in a $1.1 million settlement. Witnesses further implicated death row affiliates in Biggie's murder. The retrial was delayed due to political concerns about potential losses in the case. Former Vibe writer Kevin Powell speaks out about the corruption and scandals involving Death Row Records, Suge Knight, and various rap figures. The LAPD's involvement in cover-ups in the murders of Tupac and Biggie are also interconnected, with a focus on the targeting of not only the rappers but also their families and associates. U.S. intelligence operations are implicated in these events, including harassment tactics and false accusations against individuals like Snoop Dogg, and also the role of rapper Corrupt in promoting conflict within the rap community is interconnected, with connection to FBI agents and suspicious activities. In 2002, Kurupt, K-U-R-U-P-T, the rapper, was appointed Senior Vice President of Death Row Records, later called The Row. Dr. Dre left Death Row in 1996 to found Aftermath Records. 50 Cent and Eminem both supported activism and produced Free Tupac songs. Dre was punched at the Vibe Music Awards in 2005, allegedly by a man paid $5,000 by Suge Knight. New York police had a rap intelligence unit targeting rappers, including training other departments. Former Detective Derek Parker revealed NYPD targeted Tupac with a frame-up and murder attempt. NYPD also exported rap officers to aid in this work. Events and scenarios in that time suggest these tactics were similar to the FBI's COINTELPRO tactics against activists like the Panthers. Evidence supports U.S. intelligence targeting black activist musicians like Tupac through various tactics, including surveillance, harassment, and attempts to disrupt their careers. NYPD officers trained by the FBI were reportedly involved in monitoring and to keep surveillance on rappers like Tupac and the Wu-Tang Clan, using tactics like false arrest and even attempted murder. The music industry also played a role, with record labels like Time Warner potentially aiding and targeting and silencing activist musicians. Wu-Tang Clan member ODB claimed he was targeted by the FBI, experiencing arrest and a potentially orchestrated murder attempt. ODB faced forced medication in jail, and his death from a heart attack was surrounded by mystery. The police targeted black activist celebrities like ODB and hip-hop artists like Dead Prez. The Hip Hop Summit Action Network aimed for social and political empowerment and unity among rappers, with Russell Simmons and Sean Combs at the forefront. And we all know how that turned out. U.S. intelligence targeted Combs and attempted to implicate him in crimes, which would make sense why he ended up being an informant himself to try to protect himself and play along until he got caught, or they weren't happy with him anymore. So you can only get away with so much. Despite government attacks, the HSAN continued to push for social change and activism in the hip-hop community. U.S. intelligence was suspected of setting up the nightclub shooting incident involving Puffy Combs. New York District Attorney Robert Morgenthau dropped most charges against Combs, who was acquitted in 2001. Political rappers like Combs and Tupac faced legal harassment and lawsuits. Police also targeted hip-hop figures like Russell Simmons. The police focus on leftist activists serves as a warning. The government has a history of targeting political musicians, as seen in intelligence documents. The police surveillance of hip-hop artists and their concerts is part of a larger pattern of harassment by law enforcement. Now, when these charges were dropped against Diddy in 2001, this is most likely, or even before that, when he had turned informant himself, and he was able to get away with the things that he got away with, which we will see what comes to light in the upcoming May 2025 trial of Diddy, and what comes to light in that. So it's like what I always say, no one gets away with anything in this life or the next. The book discusses the implementation of Operation Condor by the NYPD in 2000, targeting rappers and activists, leading to a rise in arrest and police brutality. The operation coincided with the formation of the Hip Hop Summit Action Network, HSAN, and increased surveillance of rappers by the NYPD. Despite criticism and backlash, the operation continued until 2001. Operation Condor was seen as a tactic to target people of color and resulted in a high number of arrests, including for minor offenses. The operation was eventually ended due to the public outcry and pressure from police officers. The media covered the brutality of the street crime unit under Operation Condor, including the murders of Amadou Diallo and Patrick Dorismond. The Latin Kings, formerly a street gang, transformed into a leftist political group and were targeted by the NYPD and FBI. King Tone, a leader of the Latin Kings, was repeatedly arrested and eventually sentenced to prison. The NYPD under David Cohen, right, Zionist name, expanded its intelligence division globally and targeted activist group, including rappers and anti-Republican activists. The U.S. intelligence war on activist converted gangs aimed to maintain white dominance of political power by keeping ethnic communities politically inactive. The repression of activist groups by law enforcement grew in direct response to the threat they posed to established power structures. Various articles from the New York Times discussed the Manhattan Institute advising the NYPD, police suspending patrols, and high-profile rap arrests. The Latin Kings gang leader, King Tone, was also highlighted, along with NYPD's involvement in surveillance and intelligence. The book also explores the extensive posthumous release of Tupac Shakur's music and the efforts to uncover the truth behind his death. The LAPD's involvement in covering up Tupac's murder through various media projects and the mysterious circumstances surrounding Detective Russell Poole's death are detailed and connected. The ongoing efforts to investigate Tupac and Biggie's murders are even relevant to this day today. along with the controversial release of the film City of Lies. The book discusses various theories and scenarios surrounding the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, including the involvement of former police officer Reggie Wright Jr. and claims made by Greg Kading in his book Murder Rap. It also touches upon the legacy of Chokwe, Lumumba, and Afeni Shakur's activism, as well as the suspicious circumstances surrounding Afeni's death in 2016, and the ongoing struggle of Mutulu Shakur to be released from prison is also highlighted in the modern era. And the legacy of Tupac Shakur, including the significance of his death, his impact of his life and work, his impact of his work on universities and influential figures, and his global influence made him a threat. Various media organizations have censored these issues, making it crucial to seek justice through different tactics to combat oppressive forces. The legacy of Tupac Shakur continues to inspire people worldwide, as seen through tributes and commemorations across the globe. And it is essential for all racial and ethnic groups to unite against corrupt multinational corporations and government puppets and uphold his ideals. It's like even what you're seeing now, what Tupac said, that they got money for wars and not for the poor. They gave billions and billions and billions to Ukraine and Israel, both headed by Zionists, right? And the influence that the Zionist lobby has over America and its politicians, while they don't give a damn about their own citizens who are suffering here, right? With the children, with women, with veterans, disenfranchised people, vulnerable people and groups. They don't care about any of that. And anyone who defames Tupac in any way, especially saying that he was gay or, he moved to Cuba or he got a nose job, they're a part of that U.S. intelligence control over the truth communities, the conservative communities, the podcast communities. Anyone who defames him in any way, shape, or form, no matter who they are, no matter how good they sound while speaking or how well-spoken they are the enemy and connected to U.S. and British intelligence. So if you want to do Tupac justice, listen to all of his songs, study his lyrics, study the message that he was giving, and teach that to others. By keeping his message alive and what he wanted others to follow, and we can keep his memory alive and continue to fight the good fight that he wanted us to fight. And of course, the targeting by anyone that's influential or trying to make a difference by the powers that be, including the media. And even if you look at Project Mockingbird, right, it clearly shows you that all of American media, especially the Zionist-controlled Western media, is controlled by these intelligence apparatuses, right? It's like whether you look at these different news networks, they always have a retired intelligence head that's always there. He's not there as a commentator, but he's also there supervising in terms of what kind of news that they're putting out there with the approval. So it's unfortunate. I mean, even with all the propaganda that took place against Islam and Muslims, right? It's all a part of that same poisonous web that people must wake up from. And I'm glad in today's time, people are not believing the lies of the media anymore or whatever agenda that they want you to follow. So Tupac's vision has come to fruition, where he wanted people to wake up and take their power back as a people. Again, Tupac was a high and noble soul who came to the earth in this life, in his avatar, what that we know as Tupac Shakur, who came to address social issues, racial inequality, and urban struggles, and advocated for peace, unity, and empowerment within marginalized communities through his lyrics and actions. And he inspired generations with artistry, charisma, and commitment to social justice causes. And you have to make sure that the people who did this to him are held accountable. And how do you hold them accountable? What did Tupac want you to do? He wanted you to wake up and see the world for what it was. Make sure that you hold your politicians accountable, right? They got money for the wars and not the poor. So you got to follow what he's telling you. And again, I stress this, and I've said it multiple times. Anyone defaming Tupac in any way, shape, or form is a part of that intelligence apparatus and network, no matter who they are and what they claim to be. So have discernment, right? Project Mockingbird is not only on your mainstream news channels, it's also in the truth community, the conservative community, and all of these different communities who claim to be independent. So please keep that in mind. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this presentation. Again, I reserve my rights as a consumer of this book, as someone who has legally purchased this, to review a product I have purchased with an in-depth analysis under consumer laws. And also, again, this disclaimer is that this is for education, nonprofit, information, and entertainment purposes only. If you have any questions, please email me at salmonshake911@gmail.com. And I encourage you to get this book from Mr. Potash. I'll put the link in the description below so you can support his work. All images used were retrieved from public domain searches and are the rightful property of their respective owners. The images used in this video are for the purpose of nonprofit awareness and education, which is protected by the copyright laws of fair use education purpose. All my videos are for nonprofit and education purposes. Thank you. All rights reserved.